Hey guys, welcome to BudgetEDH. This week's episode is a special edition where we upgrade the Feather the Redeemed deck that we built on last week's episode and add in 10 cards that are non-budget to upgrade your deck. If you haven't seen the first Feather the Redeemed $100 budget video, I'll post a link in the video down below. Check out that video first and then use that to upgrade your deck. All prices in this video are powered by TCG Player. If you use the link to our deck list down below when you purchase your singles, accessories, or sealed product, it helps support our channel and help us create future content. Another way you can help support our channel is by going to patreon.com/budgetedh and giving us as little as $1 per month, where you'll have access to the Patreon feed and Discord, where you can vote on upcoming deck techs and help us choose content for our future videos. There's also tiers where you can collaborate with us directly to have a deck tech made specifically for you. Check us out on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more Budget Commander content, please click the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification icon where you'll be notified of all of our future videos. Thank you so much to everyone that's subscribed so far. We just hit 1,000 subscribers and that really means a lot to us, so we really appreciate it. As a special thank you for reaching our milestone of 1,000 subscribers, I do have an important announcement to make. On our next video, we will be doing a deck tech, and we will be giving that deck away to one of our lucky subscribers. Stay tuned for our next video where we'll go over all the details of how to win that deck. So the first card we want to talk about adding to this deck is a recent card that has become an EDH staple if you're playing white, and that card's Smothering Tithe. So for 3 and a white, you get an enchantment that says, whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token. Now this card is similar to Rhystic Study in that it's going to generate you a ton of value over the course of the game. For example, every rotation of the table, if your opponents just draw their 1 card per turn, you're looking at getting 3 treasures per turn, which is going to ramp you up pretty quickly, especially in a color combination that doesn't have a whole lot of ramp. This card is going to enable you to tap out your mana on your turn, and then you're going to be able to get some mana back on each upkeep of your opponents, so you will always have some mana available. In Feather, that's going to mean that you're going to have the ability to use your treasures to protect your creatures if your opponents try to remove them from the game. And we do run a lot of protection spells in this deck. Overall, in my opinion, this is one of the most powerful cards that you can add to this deck. And at $10.43, it doesn't cost you a whole lot to put this card in the deck. Now, we are going to take out Uncaged Fury out of the deck to replace with Smothering Tithe. While the double strike is really nice, it does cost 3 mana, which in this deck, you want your mana curve to be low so you can cast multiple spells per turn. The next card I want to talk about is one that I really tried to fit into the deck at the $100 budget, but wasn't able to, and it's really powerful in this deck, and that's Monastery Mentor. For 2 and a white, you get a creature that has prowess. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess onto the battlefield. Now in this deck, you are going to create a lot of monks, and having the prowess ability attached to them means that they can get big real quick, especially since you're going to be casting multiple pump spells in a turn. With this card on the battlefield, you can have some pretty crazy turns, and at only $20, I do recommend including it in this deck. Now the card we're going to take out is Vanguard of Brimaz. The reason being is, A, it's not as powerful as Monastery Mentor, and having the double white for casting this is relevant. You kind of want your curve to be a little lower and to have a little bit more flexibility. The next card I want to talk about adding into this deck is Land Tax. Now this is an EDH staple if you're playing white. And with Land Tax, it's 1 white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. This gives you a lot of card advantage on 1 card, and especially for 1 mana. If you get this out and you're not playing first, you are going to get lands each turn off of Land Tax, which is basically like drawing you 3 cards per turn. Now the card we're taking out in its place is Burnished Heart, which is a very good card in its own right, but I do like Land Tax better because you are going to ensure that you're getting your land drops every turn. Now Burnished Heart does give you ramp, which is important in this deck, but for 3 mana for the initial cost and then an additional 3 mana to sacrifice it to get 2 basic land cards onto the battlefield, it's just a little slow. And in my opinion, you want to have your mana open a lot of the times with this deck so you can protect your creatures. So in my opinion, Land Tax is the better fit for this deck, especially if you have the money to invest in it. Balefire Liege is 2 generic and 3 hybrid Boros mana. And it says other red creatures you control get +1/+1. Other white creatures you control get +1/+1. And whenever you cast a red spell, Balefire Liege deals 3 damage to target player. And whenever you cast a white spell, you gain 3 life. This has a couple of different things built into it that make it powerful. Since we are playing a token strategy, having a way to pump your creatures is nice, and that card does satisfy that. And in addition, having the ability to lightning bolt your opponent every time you cast a red spell, or to heal you for 3 whenever you cast a white spell, gives you a lot of flexibility and will deal a lot of damage each rotation of the table, since you are going to be playing a lot of red and white spells, especially pump spells, and they are going to keep going to your hand. So this is a repeatable effect. This card is very powerful. Now, this card has gone up in price about double since when Feather came out. So it's gone up from about $13 to about $26 now. So it is not budget. But if you don't already have one, now is probably the time to pick one up. Now, the card that we took out is a strong card, and that's Tajik Legion's Edge. Now, this card does prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. So in a token strategy, that is an important ability. But in my opinion, the Balefire Liege gives you a lot of damage over the course of the game. And you do want to burn your opponents out quickly since we're playing a Voltron type strategy. The next card I want to talk about is Skull Clamp. So Skull Clamp is a 1 mana artifact equipment. And it says, equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. And it does have a equip cost of just 1 generic mana. Since we are playing a token strategy with this deck, and we have a lot of 1/1 tokens that we're going to be generating each turn, having Skull Clamp in your deck means that you can equip it to those creatures, kill them off, and get 2 cards every time you do this. This is one of the most powerful cards that you can put into a deck. Now, we are going to take out Faithless Looting to replace with the Skull Clamp, and I know Faithless Looting is a good card in any red deck. It really doesn't hold a candle to Skull Clamp. It will help you find cards, but you're not getting any card advantage off of Faithless Looting, and it doesn't have any real synergy with Feather. So I do recommend pulling out your Faithless Looting and putting a Skull Clamp in its place, and for only $5, it's definitely worth the inclusion. Let's talk about a couple of tutors that we put in this deck to find some of our powerful enchantments and equipment. So first we have Enlightened Tutor, which is 1 white for an instant. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card and reveal that card. Shuffle your library, then put the card on top of it. So Enlightened Tutor is going to find us 3 powerful cards in this deck, which are Skull Clamp, Sunforger, and Smothering Tithe. We do want ways to find those cards because their impact on the game is powerful. Putting in ways to find it is really important. So I do recommend, if you have an Enlightened Tutor, put this in your deck. It does cost a little bit at $25, but it's definitely worth it. We are going to take out Martial Glory in its place, which is a little expensive for what it does, and we do have a lot of better effects that do the same thing in this deck. Then we have Steelshapers Gift, which is 1 white for a sorcery. Search your library for an equipment card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This does almost the same thing as Enlightened Tutor in this deck, except that it can't find our Smothering Tithe. It does put that card directly into your hand, but this is a sorcery, so it is a little less powerful than Enlightened Tutor here. At $6.85, this is a cheaper inclusion than the Enlightened Tutor, so that is an upside if you're strapped on cash. And the card that I would take out in its place is Expose Evil, which does give you a way to investigate and tap down a creature every turn, but isn't that powerful in this deck. The next card I want to talk about is Fairies Protection. Fairies Protection is 2 and a white for an instant, and until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, and then you exile it. This card is going to provide you a lot of protection against faster combo decks, in that when they go to combo off, you can cast your Fairies Protection and just phase out of the game until your next turn. So that gives you one last chance to be able to kill your opponent on that next turn if you do cast your Fairies Protection. Now this card has recently spiked in price and it's now $45, up from about $30. So it is a pricey card, but if you have one, it is one of the most powerful white cards that you can put into your deck. And it is just a nice catch-all if you run into a nasty situation where you're about to lose the game. You can just Fairies Protection and be saved. And the card that we're going to take out in its place is Blessed Alliance, which is a good card, but in this deck, just seems a little out of place. The next two cards are more tutors for finding creatures in our deck. And the first one is Recruiter of the Guard. And Recruiter of the Guard costs 2 and a white, and it has the ability, when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This is going to find you almost all of your token generators, your spell pingers, which are going to deal your opponents a lot of damage over the course of the turn. This card does have a lot of flexibility. Almost every card in our deck can be found by Recruiter of the Guard. And the card I would take out is Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder is a powerful ability in the deck, but in my opinion, I feel like it might be too slow once I've played with it a little bit. And you are going to leave yourself in a spot where you are tapping a lot of your mana, and that's something that you kind of don't want to do in this deck. You want to leave some of your mana open to protect your creatures. Next up, we have Imperial Recruiter, which does the same thing as Recruiter of the Guard, except it searches your library for a creature card with power 2 or less instead of toughness 2 or less. This card was over a $200 card, and it was recently reprinted in Masters 25, so it has dropped in price quite a bit. At $34.02, this is a good way to find some of the powerful creatures in your deck that you're looking for. The card I'd take out in its place is Launch the Fleet, and this card is a good way to make some tokens, but in practice, it is very slow. The next two cards I want to talk about are a couple of cheaper lands that you can include in your deck that aren't going to break the bank, and it's Sacred Foundry and Rugged Prairie. Now, I would take out Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds just because they are tap lands and they're going to slow you down. There aren't very many upgraded lands that you need to include in this deck since the red-white mana base in general is pretty cheap. These are the two I would include. Thank you so much for watching this video today, and a special thank you to all of our patrons. It really means a lot that you support our channel.